Hey guys, what's going on? Today I thought I would talk about my Eagles, more specifically what we need in the draft. I did a mock draft before free agency started, and I'll leave an annotation to that video so you can check that out. Most of it is still relevant, but that was made before free agency began, so now some of the positions that we needed have been filled, so obviously that's going to change how we draft. For this video, I decided to go over my top 5 positions that we should be looking at in this upcoming draft. But before I get into that, there is some news that just came out. The Eagles have re-signed Nick Foles. Now this is very interesting. You know, Chase Daniel is set to make, I believe, $8 million. So obviously we've been looking to trade him or cut him, and we needed a backup quarterback. And I don't think there's anyone else on the market that's better than Nick Foles. I mean, Chase Daniel, he's probably a little better because he knows Doug Peterson's system, but Nick Foles is just as good, and he's been the most productive and arguably the best quarterback we've had since Donovan McNabb left. He's a beast, and he's coming from Kansas City, which is a very similar offense to what we run, so I'm very excited for that. I doubt Carson Wentz will get injured, but if he does, I have full faith in Nick Foles, so that's some interesting news. I'm glad the Eagles decided to pick him up. I'm very happy about that. But moving on from that, let's talk about the draft. So obviously our biggest position of need right now is cornerback. We released Leotis McKelvin and Nolan Carroll got signed to the Cowboys. So now Jalen Mills is our only starting cornerback. So obviously we're going to need to pick up some guys in the draft. And I predicted in my mock draft that we would go after Sidney Jones, but unfortunately, he ruptured his Achilles at his pro day, so there's no way he's going to be able to be drafted in the first round. Unfortunately, the first round talent doesn't really match up with our draft pick. If Sidney Jones was available, he would have been the perfect fit. But with him gone, you look at guys like Marlon, Humphrey, Teez, Tabor. They are more late draft picks, like maybe 28 to 32. Not really a good fit for 14. We could get some better value out of other players at that 14th pick. And these guys, they're good. They're solid. But I don't think we really go after them in the first round. I think we solve our corner problem in the second to fourth round, which is a little unfortunate, but the cornerback depth this year is so deep. I have no problem with that. I think we still get a decent starter in the second to fourth round. Our second position of need is running back. This upcoming season is Darren Sproles' last season, and we are most likely to cut Ryan Matthews, so that leaves us with Wendell Smallwood. While I like Smallwood, I really don't feel comfortable with him taking the most snaps this season. He's a receiver type back. He's very similar to Darren Sproles. I mean, he's a little skinnier than Darren Sproles, but that also means he has the same problem as Darren Sproles. He can't run up the middle. He only can take it to the outside, and he's quick. But like I said, he has that problem with running up the middle, which we need to solve. So I think it would be smart for the Eagles to use their third round pick on a guy like Joe Mixon or a Samaje Perine. Joe Mixon is able to run up the middle and he can catch the ball, so he's kind of a jack of all trades at that position. And he would be an insane pickup. I'd be incredibly happy to have him. But I also like the idea of Samaje Perine. They're both coming from Oklahoma, and Perine is a bona fide power back. This guy is insane. He can run it up the middle, and he can take a hit like nobody else. If you watch film on this guy, he can take a hit and brush it off like nothing. I personally like the idea of pairing Perine with Smallwood. That way we kind of have our power back, our workhorse, and we have a receiving back in Smallwood, which is very similar to what we have right now with Matthews and Sproles, rather than having a guy like Joe Mixon, who's all around a very solid running back, and then having someone like Smallwood, who's kind of more one-dimensional at the position. Our third position of need is defensive end or defensive tackle. It's very clear that we won't be re-signing Benny Logan this season, so obviously we need to look for someone who can replace him. Also, Connor Barwin got cut, so he needs to be replaced as well. Personally, I like the idea of getting an edge rusher to replace Connor Barwin, because we still have Bo Allen to fill Benny Logan's spot. He's obviously not as good as Benny Logan, but he can get the job done. And our front seven is really the strength of our defense, and I think we should be focusing on making that as strong as possible. Unfortunately, due to the need of other positions, I don't think this is going to be a very high draft pick. I see it most likely happening in the 5th round. Our 4th position of need is linebacker. As of right now, we don't know what's going to happen with Michael Kendricks. He could be traded or he could just be outright cut from the team, and that leaves a huge hole in our defense. Obviously, Kendricks hasn't performed the same way he did when he first came into the league, so I imagine the Eagles are already set on drafting a guy to replace him. I don't think this is going to be a very high draft pick. I think this is something we might have to wait till next year on, or we possibly use our 6th round pick. Overall, I'm not really sure, but I'd like to see a linebacker that could replace Kendricks. And finally, at the 5th position of need, I'm going with an offensive tackle. Now, I wanted to put a wide receiver in this spot, but we signed Alshon Jeffery and Torrey Smith, so it would be nice to have a top guy like a Corey Davis from the 1st round in case Alshon Jeffery doesn't work out and we don't have the cap space to re-sign him next season. But ultimately, I think back to last season, and it reminds me that we definitely need help on that offensive line. We did make improvements. We drafted Sayamalu and Big V last year. They are definitely improvements, and we just signed Chance Warmack. So I think we do have a solid interior line, but I think we do need that outside, that tackle position filled. Once Lane Johnson was suspended, you saw our team fall apart. Big V, he did do a good job, and I think he is set to be a starter. Probably not next year. I mean, unless Jason Peters gets injured, then he'll be solid. But overall, you got to think that Jason Peters, this is probably going to be his last season. And if that's the case, Lane Johnson's going to move to left. Big V is going to take the right. And if either of them get hurt, we're going to be screwed. We saw what happened. We ended up on our 4th right tackle last season. So I think getting a guy late, probably in the 7th round, a guy that I really like, Jerry Ngakwe, he gives us a guy that we could definitely work with and make him into a quality backup or potentially a starter in the future in case any of our guys get injured or suspended. So I'm really excited for that. Hopefully, the Eagles got their eye on him, but he is really flying under the radar. I don't even know if he gets drafted, but I would like that in the 7th round. These positions are just my opinion, though. What do you guys think? Do you think the Eagles should go after a different position? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, leave it a like, subscribe to the channel. I am Motionless Gaming, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.